weekend of September 12th and 13th, 2015 brought the Bangor Gun Show, and Gun Owners of Maine was in attendance. Like any gun show, you'd see gun safes. You'd see shotguns and rifles. Of course, handguns of every kind. Ammunition. Maybe some reloading supplies. You might even expect to see your favorite non-profit, all-volunteer state gun rights organization. But there's one thing that you might not expect to see at a gun show. These guys. As you might expect, the presence of a gun control organization was the topic of much curiosity, so we thought we'd go have a chat. I spoke with Dave Witham. It's kind of unusual for an organization like yours to be at an event like this, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it might be the first time. I don't know that for sure. I just joined the organization about 2 years ago, but we're hoping to start a conversation.
And so why here? Why now?
Well, I met Charlie Runcie over the phone about a year ago, and once he learned what we were trying to do, that our organization supports the Second Amendment, but we want to have some restrictions on ownership of weapons that can be used in the wrong way. Once Charlie learned what we were trying to do, he issued an invitation for us. We thought we'd take advantage of it.
It was my understanding, because obviously your presence here has raised some questions with all of these exhibitors. My understanding that one of the things that you're doing here today is to promote gun safety. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, our organization is in favor of programs that are offered by the gentleman beside Peter in firearms training, because again we do support the Second Amendment, and those who are able to obtain, or we favor that those who are able to obtain weapons legally can also hopefully undergo firearms training so that they use weapons in a safe manner, and also keep those weapons safely at home, or in a safe manner at home. And in connection with that, the Maine Citizens Against Handgun Violence does have a trigger lock program. The organization purchased 10,000 of those a short time ago. We have distributed them through many police departments, which are listed right here on this circular here. And so we're encouraging people who stop by that if they do have firearms at home, that hopefully are kept in a cabinet, kept safely. But if they're not, or even if they are, that there'd be a double measure of safety that could be instituted by using the trigger locks. We've also distributed them through several doctors throughout the state, doctors' offices. So when a doctor is doing a physical exam, it might hopefully ask the patient if weapons are present in the home, and if the patient answers yes, then the doctor can recommend that they take a gun trigger lock home with them. So doctors' offices actually have them. We've distributed them to them. So it's not just the police departments.
I see.
Yep.
Now, you mentioned that you've been with Maine Citizens Against Handgun Violence for about 2 years?
Roughly 2 years.
Are you an officer, board member, staff, volunteer?
I'm not. We do have a coordinator, Mary Ann Royal, and we have sort of a satellite office here in Bangor. We actually use the offices of the Peace and Justice Center. They have offered space in there. That's on Harlow Street in Bangor. So we are known as the northern chapter of the Maine Citizens Against Handgun Violence. So that's the Bangor kind of satellite group.
So do you have an
us.
official position with that organization, or are you just volunteering here? Or?
Just volunteer with the organization. It's a non-profit organization, so I'm a bona fide member, as the other three people in my group are too. Mary Ann is our coordinator, but we are not members of the board of directors. I think that's what you might have been hinting at in terms of whether we have an official position. We're not members of the board of directors.
I see.
But we volunteer members of the group, and we're just pursuing, again, our goals of having universal background checks for our weapons purchases.
How have you found that's been received here today?
Fairly well. People are curious, and I know at least one person says that he is in favor of it. He doesn't consider, well, the way that the gentleman said that for purposes of public safety, it's that particular restriction on the Second Amendment is justified. And I said there has been a Supreme Court decision that allows local government to institute certain restrictions on the purchase of firearms.
You're talking about D.C. versus Heller.
Yes, the Heller decision, yes. So that certain restrictions can be instituted by local governments in order for sake of public safety.
Let me ask you this. You've mentioned several times now that you support the Second Amendment. What form does that take? Because what I'm hearing that you support certain restrictions on that right. How do you see this right actually plays out for people?
Well, I think anyone who does not have a criminal record, who doesn't have a record of mental instability or mental problems, mental disability, should be able to purchase a weapon and while undergoing a background check. I know that at the gun show here, those checks have been instituted, I believe. There are, from what I understand, there are online sales, other sales at certain gun shows across the country, perhaps private purchases made through Uncle Henry's, in which background checks are not
You realize
made.
that all online sales do have to go through licensed dealers and do have a background check, correct?
What kind of purchases again? That's online?
Online sales.
Online
internet
sales. That wasn't my understanding. That's
Since
something
1968, yes, all interstate commerce in arms must be through federal firearms dealers. Do you feel that missing out on something as basic as that maybe undermines your position at all?
Well, my understanding, I'll have to double check that. My understanding.
You can take my word on that.
Yeah. Well, I'll definitely look into it. My understanding was that some illegal sales have been done through online sales.
Well, criminals do illegal things.
Right.
They will likely also ignore a universal background check law because they're, criminals.
Right. Right.
Do you expect that criminals will obey a universal background check law?
Probably not.
How will you
probably
compel
looking,
them to obey it?
Yeah, probably looking to avoid it, I would think.
So this law would only affect the people that you're not targeting, is that correct?
People that we're not targeting.
That is, you want to target the criminals and the mentally ill, but you just
Right.
said that the criminals and mentally ill will avoid this law.
Probably try to, yeah, I would assume that they would.
What would stop them?
Well, I guess, yeah, the best way, well, it's a real problem. Trying to have people who are going to purchase weapons illegally.
It is hard to get criminals to obey the law, isn't
Yeah,
it?
in fact,
that's
in fact,
been
Charlie
something that
and I-
mankind has been dealing with for
I know. In
millennia.
fact, Charlie and I were discussing that too in an earlier conversation over the phone. It is an ongoing problem.
Yeah.
But at least, those who might choose to purchase a gun when they really are not entitled to do so, but they're trying to have that license and that permit. At least those people would be detected, I would hope.
Just to wrap up, I don't want to take too much more of your time, but again, I
Glad
see
you
that
came
gun
by.
safety is also one of your major
Yes,
interests here, and it is of ours too. I mean, we're gun owners of Maine, and that's a major part of our mission.
Right, and I've heard that down through the years.
Yeah.
The NRA, Gun Owners Action League, one that you mentioned, which I'm not so familiar with, that, yes, gun safety would be paramount.
So you're here to promote that. I wonder if you could tell us perhaps the 3 rules of gun safety that every gun owner here knows.
Yeah, never point a gun at another person. Never point at another person. Person. Make sure. Assume that the gun is loaded. If it isn't, assume the gun is loaded. Those are the two that I'm most familiar with.
Okay, well, that's not a bad start.
Yeah, a third, I'd have to think about it. I could probably come up with it. Nothing's coming to mind right now.
Okay.
But
All right, well, thank you very much. And again,
You're
could I
welcome.
get your name just one more time?
Sure. Dave Witham.
Dave.
Dave
Okay,
Witham,
Dave.
yeah.
Well, thank you very much
Thanks
for
very
talking
much.
to us today.
And Todd, nice
Todd.
meeting you.
Well, Dave didn't do too badly on the gun safety questions. Oh, not good enough to pass a basic gun safety class, no, but good enough for a guy who wants to dictate gun policy to the rest of us. That's Gun Owners of Maine from the Bangor Gun Show 2015.